robin builds her nest from the mud and the snow, with a breast red as morning and a song soft and clear. She sings to her young ones, I'm right here, I'm right here. Little wings of wonder, little hearts yet to fly. Mother birds are watching underneath the white sky. Every feather she gives you was laid down with love. You are held, little one, by the warmth from above.
So I want you to picture something in your mind for a second. Imagine you are standing right at the base of this massive loblolly pine tree, like down in St. Petersburg, Florida.
Okay, I can picture that.
Right, and you look up, way up into the thickest branches, and there's this enormous structure just suspended up there in the canopy. And I mean, it is not a human-built treehouse or anything.
Oh, definitely not.
It is 10 feet across, it is 20 feet deep, and it weighs like nearly 3 tons.
Which is just wild.
Right, 3 tons of branches and moss and pine needles just hanging 100 feet in the air,
Yeah.
built entirely from scratch, stick by a pair of bald eagles.
The sheer physics of that is staggering. I mean, a living tree supporting the weight of basically a light commercial vehicle made entirely of scavenged sticks. It completely reshapes how you look at the canopy.
It really does. And that brings us to welcome to today's deep dive. Today we are pulling from some really fascinating field biology. We're looking at excerpts from a document titled Chapter 4, The Mother Bald Eagle Power, Loyalty, and the Nest That Grows.
It is a great piece of writing.
It really is. And our mission today is to explore this extreme, long-term evolutionary bet that the bald eagle makes on parenthood. We are going to dissect, how these apex predators view time, how they view real estate, and just how their survival strategy is entirely different from almost any other wildlife you might see.
And this really matters for you, the listener, because, well, we live in a world that is frankly obsessed with quick fixes, right?
Yeah, totally. Everything is instant.
Exactly. We are surrounded by short-term thinking and immediate returns. But the bald eagle offers this incredible masterclass in compounding long-term investment. They operate on a completely different scale of time, and the nest itself is basically the physical manifestation of that patience.
I just cannot get past that 3-ton measurement. I mean, the source material calls this kind of nest an eyrie, which comes from an old French word meaning a flat or level place.
Right, the old terminology.
Yeah, but calling a massive 20-foot deep fortress a flat place feels like, I don't know, the understatement of the century.
It really undersells the architecture. I mean, an eyrie is fundamentally an accumulation of loyalty made physical. Because a first-year nest is actually pretty modest by eagle standards.
Like how modest?
Maybe 3 to 5 feet across. And just a couple feet deep, but it transforms into this multi-ton behemoth simply because of biological routine.
Wow.
Yeah, so every single year the breeding pair returns and they add a new layer of sticks and soft lining. And that annual addition just slightly outpaces the natural settling and, the rotting of the old material at the bottom.
Or just slowly climbs upwards and outwards. It reminds me of like a generational family estate. You start out buying a small starter home, and then over a decade you add an extension.
Right, maybe a guest house.
Exactly, a new garage, and eventually it becomes this sprawling compound. But I am curious about their intent here. Like, is this massive construction a deliberate attempt at grandeur?
You mean, do they want a mansion?
Right. Do they want a mansion, or is it just an architectural accident of their loyalty to that specific tree?
Well, the literature points heavily to the latter. The nest grows as a byproduct of their biology, not some desire for grandeur. And what is truly fascinating about that loyalty is that it is anchored to the site far more than to the mate.
Wait, really? Because we always hear that romanticized idea that eagles mate for life.
Yeah, it's a very common myth. I mean, they are monogamous, yes. But if a mate dies, the surviving bird will typically find a new partner within a season or two. But they keep the nest.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, the territorial attachment actually outlasts the pair bond itself.
Location, location, location. I mean, is the ultimate attachment to prime real estate.
Exactly, and they choose those locations with incredible strategic intent. They favor the largest available trees with strong horizontal branches. because they need branches capable of bearing that increasing load over decades.
So we're talking about massive trees here.
Right, old-growth conifers like white pine, Douglas fir, or Sitka spruce. Though in treeless landscapes, like out in parts of the Great Plains, they will adapt. They'll use cliff faces or even utility poles. But the absolute non-negotiable requirement is water.
Because they have to fish.
Precisely. They will almost exclusively nest within 1 mile of open water. In fact, the single strongest predictor of where eagle populations concentrate is just the overlap between sturdy nesting habitat and rich fishing habitat.
That makes total sense. Securing and actually holding down a 3-ton piece of prime real estate requires a highly specific partnership. One that the source points out is dictated almost entirely by physics.
Yes, the physical realities are so cool here.
Let's look at the mother eagle for a second. The visual the text gives is striking. An adult female can weigh up to 14 pounds with a wingspan approaching 8 feet.
She is an imposing animal, and what stands out in the field biology is that she's actually 25% larger than the male.
Which is wild.
Yeah, biologists refer to this as reversed sexual size dimorphism, which is really just a fancy way of saying the female outbulks the male. It's a trait very common in the raptor family.
I was actually struggling to understand this size difference when reading the source. Because, you might look at the female staying at the nest while the male hunts and think, oh, it's just traditional behavioral roles.
Right, the classical assumption.
Yeah. But if the male is outdoing the majority of the hunting and the provisioning during those early weeks, shouldn't he be the larger, more powerful one? It feels backwards.
You would definitely think so if you view them purely through the lens of, mammalian predators. But avian biology relies on a brutal equation of thermodynamics. The division of labor emerges directly from their body mass.
How so?
Well, the larger female provides crucial thermal inertia. Think of it like a massive pot of soup versus a small teacup.
Okay, I like that analogy.
If you take both off the stove, the teacup goes cold in minutes. But the massive pot holds its ambient heat for hours. Her larger body mass acts exactly like that pot during a freezing late winter storm.
So she retains the heat.
Exactly. She retains heat far better, allowing her to incubate the eggs and keep those tiny eaglets warm through sub-zero nights without freezing to death herself.
While the male's smaller size gives him basically an entirely different physical advantage.
Right. He is aerodynamically built to be a fighter jet. The smaller, more agile male is perfectly suited for frequent, short foraging flights. He needs to constantly launch from the tree, dart over the water, catch prey, and bring it back.
Just back and forth all day.
Yep. If the 14-pound female were flying back and forth all day, the energy cost of lifting that heavier mass would be astronomically high.
So because she is burning so few calories just sitting on the nest, all of that conserved energy can be redirected into the next immense biological hurdle, which is managing the microclimate.
It is such an efficient system.
It really is.
Yeah.
And the text mentions that older pairs who have nested together for years actually develop this incredible synchrony to handle these challenges.
This is where the compounding returns of their long-term investment really show up. Pairs that have been together for years develop a measurable rhythm. They know exactly how to coordinate food deliveries, how to share alertness to threats.
They're just dialed in.
Completely dialed in. But most importantly, the mother's permanence gives her hyper-local knowledge. Because she has been sitting at that specific vantage point for maybe a decade, she knows exactly where the fish school during a drought year.
Right.
She knows precisely where the thermal columns rise off the valley floor so she can soar to altitude without even flapping her wings. This accumulated environmental map translates directly into higher nesting success compared to younger pairs.
And that perfectly calibrated partnership faces its ultimate test when the actual offspring arrive. Which brings us to a nursery environment that is, frankly, equal parts tender and terrifyingly pragmatic.
Terrifyingly pragmatic is the perfect way to phrase it.
Let's talk about the incubation period. The female lays 1 to 3 eggs, usually 2. They are dull white and roughly the size of a large avocado.
That's a big egg.
Yeah. And incubation takes about 34 to 36 days. How they handle the extreme weather during that time is wild. In the northern ranges, she uses that thermal inertia to hunker down in the freezing cold. But in the extreme heat of the south, they do something called umbrelling.
Oh, umbrelling is amazing.
Right. The source says they stand directly over the eggs and just spread their 8-foot wingspan wide open to completely shade the nest from the blistering sun.
They are dynamically managing the microclimate. They essentially become a living HVAC system for their eggs.
But the timing of those eggs introduces this biological mechanism that feels incredibly dark. The female lays the eggs 2 to 4 days apart, but she starts incubating immediately with the first egg, rather than waiting for the whole clutch.
Right, which causes what biologists call asynchronous hatching.
Exactly. So the first egg hatches days before the second. Reading this, it just feels like a gruesome evolutionary insurance policy. That older chick gets this massive developmental head start over its younger sibling.
A gruesome evolutionary insurance policy captures the reality perfectly. Biologists actually have a grim name for this. They call it the Cain and Abel strategy.
Wow. Yeah, that is grim.
It is. But when you understand the environmental pressures they face, you see exactly why it evolved. Nature is incredibly unpredictable. In a year where fish are abundant, both chicks might get enough food to fledge. But in lean years, that size hierarchy forces a brutal economic decision.
Because the parents just don't have enough food to sustain 2 growing bodies. If they try to divide a meager catch equally, both chicks remain malnourished and might die.
Exactly. So the size advantage ensures that the older, stronger chick easily dominates the food supply. It aggressively outcompetes the younger sibling.
So it concentrates the parents' severely limited resources into at least one viable offspring.
Right. It is not gentle, but mathematically it prevents the total loss of the breeding season.
But amid all that brutal pragmatism, the text highlights this stunning physiological contrast. The eaglets hatch weighing roughly 3 ounces. They are completely blind, helpless, covered in this awkward gray down, and can barely even lift their own heads.
They are so incredibly fragile at that stage.
And standing over them is this apex predator, a bird capable of exerting hundreds of pounds of pressure per square inch with its talons.
Talons that are specifically designed to pierce the thick scales of a large fish or snap a heavy branch.
Right. And this deadly bird bends down, delicately tears off microscopic paper-thin strips of meat and feeds them directly into the tiny beak of this fragile 3-ounce chick.
It's amazing.
Predatory power and absolute maternal tenderness occupying the exact same body. This is such a beautiful observation from the source.
It really speaks to the incredible precision of their physical control. Every single movement around those newly hatched chicks is deliberate and cautious.
Now, if a chick manages to survive this intense crucible for 10 to 12 weeks, it eventually has to leave the nest, which results in some incredibly ungraceful exits.
Oh, the fledging stage is pure chaos.
The transition involves this fascinating quirk of growth. Their feet and talons actually grow to full adult size before the rest of their body catches up.
Yes, biologists refer to this uneven development as allometric growth.
I just imagine these awkward teenagers with massive, oversized clown feet standing nervously on the edge of the nest.
It looks hilarious, but the stakes are life or death. Those feet are their primary survival tool and their only landing gear. If a sudden wind gust blows a juvenile out of the nest prematurely, having fully developed talons is its only chance to grip a lower branch.
Or defend itself on the ground.
Exactly.
And they certainly put those feet to work practicing. During those final weeks, they practice mantling, which is aggressively spreading their wings over their food to shield it from their sibling.
Right, descending their meal.
And they also do these vigorous wing flapping exercises. They grip the nest with those huge talons and just beat their wings so hard the entire 3-ton structure shakes.
But despite all that practice, that first flight is famously rough.
Oh yeah, they finally launch themselves. And because their flight muscles haven't actually been tested in sustained air currents, it often leads to clumsy crash landings.
They just tumble into nearby brush.
Right. They make these undignified recoveries from thin branches. It's a far cry from the majestic soaring we usually associate with the species.
The learning curve for flight is incredibly steep, and the parents have to carefully manage that transition.
The text notes that parents continue to feed the fledglings for 4 to 6 weeks after they leave the nest, but they slowly start withholding food. As I read this, I kept wondering, is this deliberate, conscious teaching by the parents?
Like a conscious lesson.
Yeah, are they thinking, it's time you learn to fish? Or is it just tough love, driven purely by an instinctual tapering off of hormones?
Well, behavioral ecologists actually still debate the cognitive intent behind this. Some argue there is a level of conscious pedagogy happening, while others view it as a strict biological off-ramp.
But the result is the same.
Exactly. Regardless of the intent, the practical outcome is identical: hunger. Hunger is the ultimate motivator. By withholding the easy meals, the parents ensure the juvenile is desperate enough to finally attempt its own difficult hunting dives.
The ultimate push out into the world. And from there, they disperse. The text points out they basically wander aimlessly for years, simply building survival skills.
And they look completely different, too.
Right. They wear a mottled brown and white plumage for their first 4 years, which constantly confuses beginner birdwatchers who are scanning the skies for that iconic solid white head.
Yeah, the classic bald eagle look doesn't actually emerge until they reach sexual maturity at around 4 or 5 years old.
And that multi-year journey to maturity brings us back to the overarching theme of this deep dive, the grand evolutionary strategy. If we contrast the bald eagle with smaller backyard birds like robins or hummingbirds.
Right, the volume strategy.
Exactly. Those species bet their evolutionary success on volume. A robin might lay 4 to 6 eggs. The chicks develop rapidly in just a couple of weeks, and they might pull off 2 or 3 entire broods in a single warm season.
Because the biological assumption there is that if you produce a massive volume of offspring, a tiny fraction will naturally survive the predators in the winters.
It's the shotgun approach to species survival. Spray enough genetics out there and something will stick. But the bald eagle makes the exact opposite calculation. They bet on extreme investment.
1 brood per year.
Usually just 1 or 2 surviving chicks. 12 full weeks of intense, continuous parental care before the bird can even fly, followed by years of slow maturation before those young can reproduce.
It is a magnificent strategy, but it absolutely demands 3 things: a long life, a stable territory, and a reliable partner.
But here's the catch. This strategy of extreme biological patience works flawlessly in a stable, natural world, but it made them uniquely, devastatingly vulnerable to sudden human-made changes in the 20th century.
Right. A species that relies on perfectly raising 1 chick a year cannot adapt quickly to sudden, widespread mortality.
The statistics from the source material are harrowing. In 1963, the population in the contiguous United States had plummeted to just 417 nesting pairs.
Which is almost unthinkable today.
The culprits were a perfect storm of hunting, massive habitat loss, and the widespread agricultural use of the chemical pesticide DDT. And the mechanics of how DDT decimated the eagles are deeply tragic.
It really is a dark chapter.
The chemical would wash into the waterways and bioaccumulate in the fish. When the eagles ate those fish, the DDT actively disrupted the enzymes necessary for calcium metabolism in the mother's body.
Which means when she went to lay her eggs, she simply couldn't deposit enough calcium into the shell.
So the shells were fatally thin. When that massive 14-pound adult female we talked about earlier settled down to provide that life-saving thermal inertia, her own body weight would crush the fragile egg.
Oh, it's brutal.
The very evolutionary tools she developed to nurture her young became the instrument of their destruction. The nests were literally silenced across the continent.
It is one of the most sobering examples of unintended ecological consequences in modern history.
But the text does pivot to an incredible turnaround. By 2006 and 2007, the population had recovered to nearly 10,000 nesting pairs.
An amazing recovery.
Impartially reporting what the source outlines, the factual catalysts for this recovery were clear. The federal ban of DDT in 1972 stopped the chemical thinning of the shells. The Bald and Golden Eagle Protection Act provided strict legal shielding. And state agencies launched targeted reintroduction programs.
It is widely considered a landmark victory in wildlife conservation, but the text frames this in a really profound way.
How so?
Well, the human interventions, the chemical bans, and the legislation merely cleared the stage. They simply stopped the artificial harm. The actual heavy lifting of the recovery was done, 1 nest at a time, by the biology of the birds themselves.
They just did what they always do.
Exactly. It was accomplished by mother eagles returning in blinding February snowstorms, incubating their eggs, and executing the exact same long-term investment strategy they have relied on for hundreds of thousands of years.
They relentlessly stuck to their biological bet. Now, for you listening, the source material actually provides some practical field notes on how to watch these birds ethically if you are lucky enough to live near a nesting territory.
These are great tips.
First rule, stay at least 300 feet away from an active nest.
This distance is critical. Eagles are highly sensitive to human foot traffic, especially during early incubation. If your presence startles a parent and causes them to flush off the nest, you expose those eggs to freezing air.
Or to predators.
Exactly. You leave the nest completely undefended against opportunistic predators like crows or ravens who are always watching for exactly that moment.
So give them a massive buffer zone. A better alternative is to use state wildlife nest cameras. Many agencies now have high-definition live stream cameras mounted in neighboring trees.
You get a far more intimate view that way anyway.
You really do, without causing any stress to the birds. Another great tip from the text is to spend your time watching the foraging areas rather than just staring at the nest. Seeing the eagle execute a tucked wing plunge and strike the water gives you the context for what the parents are doing when they aren't home.
And the final piece of advice for the field. If you happen to see a distressed, awkward-looking fledgling on the ground near a nest tree, resist the overwhelming urge to rescue it.
Right, as we learned, those clumsy crash landings are a completely normal part of their steep learning curve. They are equipped with those massive talons for a reason, and they're usually just figuring out how to navigate the brush.
If you are genuinely concerned the bird is injured, the protocol is to contact a licensed wildlife rehabilitator before you ever attempt to approach the animal. Just step back and let them work out the physics of flight on their own.
As we wrap up today's deep dive, I'm just struck by the sheer scale of their parenthood. It is a testament to what happens when loyalty and biological patience are allowed to compound over decades.
It changes how you view the natural world. Watching a modest 3-foot ring of scavenged sticks slowly transform into a 3-ton institution in the canopy.
It really does.
And it offers a wonderful perspective shift for our own lives. I encourage you, the listener, to reflect on your own nests. Think about the long-term projects, the deep relationships, or the complex skills you are building right now.
That's a good point.
Are you seeking the rapid, high-volume turnaround of a smaller bird? Or are you willing to make the eagle's bet? Are you willing to slowly add material stick by stick year after year, trusting that the compounding investment will eventually build an institution?
I love the idea of applying that architectural patience to our own lives. And I want to leave you with one final lingering question to ponder on your own, inspired directly by the source material.
What's the question?
Well, we talked extensively about how a single female eagle holds this incredibly vital, hyper-local knowledge. She knows the invisible thermal columns, she knows the drought year fishing sanctuaries, and she possesses an intricate mental map of the local geography gathered over decades.
Right, that inherited wisdom.
Exactly. When the eagle populations were nearly wiped out, down to just 417 pairs by DDT, how much of that invisible, inherited map of the ecosystem was permanently lost?
Oh, wow. That is a heavy thought.
And how many generations of young, clumsy, wandering eagles does it take for a species to completely relearn the precise, intimate memory of a landscape?
A profound reminder of the invisible knowledge held in the canopy.
Something to think about the next time you look up and see a massive collection of branches suspended against the sky. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive. We'll catch you next time.